Now, a Jimmy Mathis exclusive, The Stone Zone, featuring Roger Stone, veteran of 30 years in politics and 9 presidential campaigns, including Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and Donald Trump. Here is Jimmy Mathis on WBAL News Radio 1090 and the WBAL app.
Why did you want him to believe that you possibly did that?
Well, I didn't tape him. You never know what's happening when you see that the Obama administration, and perhaps longer than that, was doing all of this unmasking and surveillance, and you read all about it, and I've been reading about it for the last couple of months about the seriousness of and horrible situation with surveillance all over the place, and you've been hearing the word unmasking, a word you probably never heard before. So you never know what's out there, but I didn't tape, and I don't have any tape, and I didn't tape.
Roger Stone joins the program right now. Good morning, Roger. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
So this is fascinating to me. Right now, what you have going on in Washington, okay, so there are no tapes, right? That's been the $60,000 question for the last couple of weeks. Were there tapes between Donald Trump and former FBI Director James Comey? Now, put that aside for a second. The conversation in Washington has completely turned. You have Democrats right now. Senator Feinstein is saying that maybe Loretta Lynch should come and testify under oath in front of the Senate. From the Hill on Friday, Dems are now pushing Democratic leadership to talk less about Russia. And all of this really ties back to the tweet that Donald Trump put out weeks ago that just made the possibility, just asked the question, said there could possibly be tapes between James Comey and Donald Trump. Without that tweet, Comey probably doesn't leak the memo to the Columbian law professor, who then turns it over to the New York Times. Comey probably isn't in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee. So all this leaks back to that. It just seems like it's kind of political genius, to be honest with you.
Well, the president raises a very serious point. In other words, there may be tapes because, as we have just learned, the Obama administration, it turns out, was surveilling everybody in violation of the Constitution. I'm not the one saying that. The FISA court said it. And that's a crime. That's a far more serious crime than Watergate. Watergate was just a bunch of hoodlums breaking into a building. This is a more egregious violation of our civil liberties, and therefore I think it's kind of slow. I mean, Valerie Jarrett, Susan Rice, Loretta Lynch, and yes, Barack Obama himself should be in front of a grand jury explaining what they knew and when they knew it. This is a very substantial crime. So when the president said, Comey better hope there are not tapes, he didn't say, I made tapes. He said, tapes could have existed. He's now confirmed that they do not, which I think gets this off the table and, as you point out, has shifted the debate to the question of what the Obama folks did and the narrow question of whether the president essentially assigned, or I should say directed, FBI Director Comey to fix the investigation, into Flynn, which he did not.
Right. Well, and also, what was the collusion between Comey, Loretta Lynch, and the DNC? I mean, it looks like there was some election fixing that was going on. It just had nothing to do with the Russians. It was between the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the DNC. And even you have top-ranking Democrats right now. You have Senator Feinstein that wants to bring former Attorney General Loretta Lynch in to testify under oath. I mean, the dog may have caught the car on this one.
It's a good move. It's just, but the Justice Department should be out ahead of the Senate, number one.
Right.
And number two, with Lynch, you almost don't know where to start. I mean, what did she mean when she told Comey, refer to the Hillary email matter as not an investigation, but a matter? Now you combine with that the counterfeit memo that alleged that Lynch had assured the Clinton campaign that she would not go any deeper into the email scandal. Regardless of whether that memo, reported in the Washington Post on page 1, is indeed a counterfeit, which we now believe, James Comey believed it was real.
Right.
That's what the story says, meaning he learned of an obstruction of justice by Lynch, and rather than report it as an officer of the court, he abetted it. He facilitated it. So from that point of view, I'd say these folks have real problems. Real problems.
What do you think the Republicans do moving forward on the replacement for the health care bill just in the Senate? You have four holdouts right now: Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Ron Johnson, Ted Cruz. President right now trying to whip those votes, calling Ted Cruz. Where do you think that goes moving forward?
Well, I'm glad that those are the fellows he has to get instead of Susan Collins and Lindsey Graham and John McCain.
Right.
By the way, incredible story this week about Russian influence in the presidential campaign of John McCain, which I don't know if you saw on Circa News.
No, I did not see that
Story. I mean, the intelligence services warned McCain several times that he was meeting with people that they believed to be Russian agents and cutouts for Vladimir Putin, and McCain went ahead and met with them and asked for money anyway. So it now kind of makes his criticism of the Trump administration ring entirely hollow.
Roger, your thought on the daily press briefings at the White House? For the most part, they've gone dark. CNN actually is bringing in a sketch artist, audio sometimes, very rarely cameras. Just your thought if that is, politically speaking, a wise move from the White House right now?
Well, as you probably saw, CNN was forced to retract a major story about Donald Trump, his aide, Anthony Scaramucci, in the campaign, which turned out to be entirely false. Points out yet again that CNN is not a news organization. It's a propaganda front for the Clintons, George Soros, and other lefties. And I don't think propaganda organizations should have press credentials at all. I would pull their credentials, at least until they demonstrate that they're really a news organization. That said, the White House press corps is so used to calling the tune as if there's some law or regulation that requires how they be handled.
Right.
If they're going to continue to cheap shot the president, they may get no news briefings. That would be his prerogative. It would at least control the narrative from his point of view, but he would get withering criticism about the fact that he's not kissing the derriere of the mainstream media.
Right, but it was one of the major miscalculations that President Obama had. He tried to throw Fox News off Pebble Beach there at the White House, and the other networks rallied around Fox. I'm not a big fan of CNN either, but just politically speaking, when you look right now that you're trying to put forward transparency, is a reliability that comes along with this move right now, if nothing more than from a public perception standpoint?
No, there would definitely be a liability, but the alternative is to continue to get trashed by the news organizations who don't cover what you say anyway, who decide to give us an interpretation of what you say. So, I mean, it's got both pluses and minuses. If the media wants better coverage or better access, then they need to provide better coverage.
Roger Stone, always appreciate your time. Roger Stone, StoneZone.com, your new book, The Making of the President, 2016. Appreciate you coming out to Baltimore a couple of weeks ago to sign some copies of that. It's a great read. Encourage everybody to pick it up, and you can hear Roger every Sunday here at 9:30 for the Stone Zone. Thank you, Roger.
Give my regards to the boys at Pappas, the greatest crab cakes I have ever had any place on the face of the planet.
That will work its way into a promo, my friend. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Roger Stone, 9:45. You're listening to the Jimmy Mathis Show. We'll be right back.